गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तपोभिक्षीण पापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। पेज 93। नित्यशुद्धविमुक्तैकम् अखण्डानन्दमद्वयम् सत्यं ज्ञानमनन्तं यत् परं ब्रह्माहमेव तत् परं ब्रह्माहमेव तत्। परम ब्रह्म अहम एव तत्। नित्य शुद्ध, नित्य विमुक्त, नित्य अखंडम, नित्य आनंदम, नित्य advayam. That word nitya has to be continued along with the rest of the words. That is when we will have a better grip at the meaning. So in the contemplation, it almost sounds like the last name of our Puja Gurudev's Ashtottara Shatanamavali. Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarupaha. Nitya Shuddha Vimukta Akhandananda Advaya Tattva. So Nityatva, Nityatva, that which is eternal, and it is eternally pure, eternally never bound, always liberated, eternally that which has been indivisible and eternally one without a second. So in between what has happened? Our experience has taken a sense of reality. And our experience is exactly opposite to what has been just stated. We also have nitya experience of what? Of anityatva. Nitya experience of ajnana swarupa. Whatever we claim as, I think it was Guruji, I think once he said, how much did you get in some exam that I had given? So I said, I got some 85 or 90. So I said, so you still don't know 15%. Which is true, right? We get a plus and we feel that we have done really well. But then it also states very clearly that that much I still do not know. So nitya, ajnana, and nitya, ashuddha. Therefore, every day, at least twice, we have to purify the body. Otherwise, we will be walking, talking, moving human repellent. We know mosquito repellent, it will be human repellent. Durvasana. Body has to be cleaned. As much as we focus on cleaning the body, we don't focus that much on cleaning the mind and sharpening the intellect. That also has to be done on a regular basis. That which requires a constant, consistent effort to maintain in a format wherein it is acceptable, that it gets, that with which this body is sustained, is food. Food gets rotten, distasteful and putrefied within about 6 to 7 hours. Oh, fridge में रख सकते हैं ना स्वामी? Body is not at the fridge temperature, therefore we continue to live. Body is at 37 degrees Celsius. So the food that we eat, which gets putrefied in 6 to 7 hours, this body is sustained by that. How can it remain eternal? How can it remain unputrefiable? It will have all those lack. It is that limited. That is the abhyasa that has to be done. That all these are filled with ashuddhi. Many of us, while doing the sadhana, if there is a bad thought, we start beating ourselves up. The sadhana, I think, is not more about evaluating the thought. That is at one level, it's fine. It is about detaching oneself from any content that is being flowing as a thought. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, doesn't matter. There is a movement, I do not need to identify with it. The tadatmyata should not be there. Why? Because my nature is of the nature of shuddha, nitya shuddha, nitya vimukta, ever liberated. Any other sense of limitation that I am attached with is bound to be binding. Any sense of it. The moment I define something as myself, bondage has started. Because I have to sustain that after that. That which does not require a consistent effort to sustain it. That is my true nature. It does not require to be assisted by anyone, recognized by anyone, or a certification required. Some people carry the title bona fide guru. who gave you the bona fide certificate? Bona fide guru. Very recently I read it somewhere. Bona fide guru. The moment you put bona fide guru, bona dikhte ho. You have shortened your very presence. It doesn't require anybody's certification or a stamp of authority. I exist. And I exist independent of any such authorization required. Not even the authorization of my own buddhi. That now it recognizes, therefore I am that. I am that in spite of it. It is the clarity that the buddhi should be entertained into so that it doesn't entertain all different kinds of doubts, thereby taking us back to the habitual errors. Therefore, on the seat of meditation, this contemplation is required. I just am, beyond which there is no other qualifiers required. Anything that qualifies, I have to constantly watch and make sure that that qualifying agency, which is usually the buddhi, it gets the clarity on that seat of meditation. That contemplation has to be done thoroughly. Nityamukto'smi. It all starts with that thought assumption of defining myself. The moment there is that definition, I become bound. Binding starts. And it is not that easy a sadhana, because we use the sadhana that is supposed to unlimit, liberate, to bind us and define us. I am a great sadhaka. And people also have that kind of a habit, बड़े साधक है, बहुत सालों से कर रहे हो. And then we also feel, how? It doesn't matter how many years we have been trying to practice. Have we reached or have we not reached? Because in this phase of realization, it is wrong to call it in this aparukshanubhuti of realization, there is no percentages. Either you are or you are not. However much you have gained control on the mana, buddhi and the equipment, even the soldier or a trained one has trained himself or herself to that level. Even a sportsman has that training. Probably they are more qualified, that they are exposed to Vedanta, they can easily attain to it. But that also still is in the field of ignorance. And that thought should immediately humble our own intellect in not trying to claim unnecessary claims. In Hindi we say, चने के झाड़ पे चढ़ाना. Have you seen that? बेचते रहते हैं ना, what do they call it? Haribut. उतना ही रहता है. It is the size of the jhad is only that much. And climbing that is like an oxymoron. And having climbed it, they then feel gratified. It's so easy to get that binded or bound by these defining factors that the mind starts craving for it. It has to be independent of it. Independent wherein? Independence not out of arrogance. Independence out of the humble experience that which I am, how could I not recognize it this far? Mind is humbled down at that. Mind is also humbled because that attachment is completely detached, there is no one to claim. Therefore, vimuktaha. So in Janaka's court, everybody was a great realized one. So he put a very tricky proposal. He said, there are 1,000 cows with 1,000 calves, and each one is loaded with nice alankara abhushana. Along with that, you also have 1,000 gold coins. It is to that person who knows that they have realized and can claim it. The moment you are the claimant, you have lost it. So Yajnavalkya gets up and says to his students, he says, you can all take this to our ashram. He has not claimed or said that I am realized. Because the moment you claim it, the claiming agency has already erupted. And it erodes. So as much the tricky the situation was, the solution was also that tricky. Without claiming it, he said that it anyway has to go to my ashram. Because that where I am is exactly what he is pointing at. The moment you say, I am even realized, it is again become limited. Therefore, when I said the other day the example of that Mahatma, whenever I asked him, what is the realization look like, he would avoid answering that question because it was the same kind of a tricky situation. The moment you claim it, so after a lot of persuasion of several attempts, not on the same trip, several trips, and he finally obliged to say, it is a very humbling feeling. That which is so evidently there, why have we not recognized it? The realization is that I have been this foolish this far. So beautifully put. That it is so evident, and yet we meaning the mind has this habit that until and unless it can put it in that system of its recognition wherein it can give attributes and cling on to it, it doesn't feel justified. Many times when these subtleties are being explained, it is the buddhi that wants to grasp, personalize, and then say, now I got it. Therefore, Kenopanishad says that if you say that you have understood it, you have understood it not. If you say that you have understood it not, then certainly you have understood it not. How? Mauna vyakhya prakatita parabrahma tattvam. It's only in that absorbed presence which expresses forth as silence. Gurudev's translation there is amazing. Mauna vyakhya, he says, eloquent speech of silence. Eloquent expression of silence. The moment you utter something where it is clearly saying that ashabdam, that which cannot be put in word, तो आप क्या कर रहे हो स्वामी जी? Trying to explain that it cannot be explained. Because the moment you put it in words, it becomes baddha. It is nityamukta and akhanda, nitya akhanda. Imagine, this is the pointer that with which we start our balavihar at that young age. What is the first shloka that we teach to our balavihar kids? Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Unfragmented, homogeneous mass of blissful existence. Unfragmented. There is no otherness. It cannot even be said as the best. Good, better, best is always in a state of comparison. Best among, better than. It's always a comparative statement. If there is something other than it to compare it with, that is when you can say better than, best among. Therefore it is said advayam. Advayam, one without a second. Whoever translated advayam into these words, I revel in appreciation of that. Very beautifully translated. Sometimes, that words are not translatable, but this is so aptly translated. One without a second. And that is unfragmented. Now, in our experience, the moment we say experience, there is fragmentation, and therefore there is otherness. Wherever there is otherness, even in that aspect of reflected consciousness enlivening buddhi, mana, which is the most intimate of our experiences, the otherness has already been established. Therefore, the first result of that otherness, right at its inception, is bhaya. It starts with that inferiority complex right from its beginning. Therefore, to justify its existence, the ahankara has always existed to prove itself as something better in the sense of whatever it can compare to at that point. Because it starts from that fear. Fear is leading to that inferiority, that insecurity. And all the attempts done to glorify this ahankara through the personality development. On one side, we have the absoluteness of this Advaita Tattva. On the other side, we have to also propose and enable the personality to develop, without which there is no other way. Otherwise, there is no possibility of growth from tamasic to rajasic to sattvic and then gunatita. While that is being done, to realize and to understand that it is only a phase to go through to reach to that which is ever existent. So it is not to nullify or to ridicule or to reduce the amount of necessity of that personality to develop. It is required, without which you cannot transcend. But the understanding has to be there while growing, that this growth is to abandon it after a certain point. But then the kick that the intellect gains of that change and the subtlety that it gains, therefore dropping tamas is hard, but harder than that is dropping rajas, because there are these instant gains that you see. Harder than that is the sattvic, because there is such immense amount of attention, focus and glory that it becomes almost like an impossibility, to give that up. And the moment you reach to that subtlety, the rest of them who are trying to reach are always astonished. अरे वाह, पहुंचे हुए हो. अहंकार की परिधि में, in the realm of ahankara, however much you have ponchofied, it is still in ajnana only. Therefore, humility is the greatest asset. Humility not claimed, humility naturally expressed. Because if claimed, again the ahankara started reveling in it. It should be unobviously expressed in actions and not claimed through words. Otherwise, the ahankara, the intellect gets trapped in that growth and glow of it. Because that kind of independence it has never had an experience of. Then it starts gloating on it, bloating on it. To be able to shun that away, one requires Atmabodha. Therefore, one has to sit on the seat of meditation to meditate, to drop that final identity. Without this practice, intensely done on a continuous basis, it is not going to be easy to drop that. Therefore, dhyana has to be done. Dhyana again is an abhyasa to remove these erroneous habitual patterns that which we have comforted ourselves in. And that comfort zone has to be recognized and kicked out mercilessly. Without claiming again that I have kicked it. Therefore, the Upanishad says, Yenas tyajasi tatyaja. That with which you have given up, now give up that. That is the final barrier. As a pole vault jumper runs with that pole, he has now crossed the barrier. He has reached to that final point. The legs and the mid-torso has almost crossed that barrier. At that point, that with which he has raised to that level has to be finally, he has to drop it. While dropping it, they have to be intelligent enough to drop it while pushing it away. Sometimes during the Olympics we have seen that if the pole is not dropped properly, even though you feel you have crossed, it will come and again poke you. It's more a serious situation. So it has to be dropped in such a way that it doesn't come back to bite us. Yenas tyajasi tatyaja. That final layer of identity which is the sattvic, that when dropped, that who is dropping also has to be silenced. Therefore, Gurudev uses the word in the culmination of the white heat of meditation. This who is identifying has to be burnt down to ashes. Very flowery way of putting the intense experience, but very descriptive. That it has to culminate into that silence, conscious silence. Unconscious silence, we go there every day effortlessly. Even during satsanga it happens. Unconscious silence is a thorough experience. We have PhD on that. While driving also we can fall asleep. At least in the comfort of the chair that is there in the car, I would assume that one might sleep. On a two-wheeler, I know people who have had accidents because they have slept. Kaise? It's so uncomfortable. And we have PhD in that also. Come what may, I will achieve that state. Unconscious silence. Now this has to be conscious silence. And once you reach that state, then therefore we say it expresses as fearlessness. It is not because you know taekwondo or karate or jujutsu. Fearlessness because I am that which is everything, therefore I have nothing else to lose. And hence therefore I don't need to be obliged by anything, anyone, any place. And yet function in utmost humility. Why? Because there is no otherness. When identified completely with this body, one anga doesn't turn to the other part of the body in trying to claim, I am better than you. One eye doesn't look at the other eye and say, I am better than you. One hand doesn't go and tap the other hand and say, look, I am the most used one, you are the least used one, I am better than you. There is no, they both are equally me. Therefore, there is no sense of competition. Therefore, there is no sense of fear. Sometimes while sleeping, I sleep in such an awkward position that when I turn from that position, that because of that awkwardness, that part of the body has become numb because of less of blood supply. And in that turning moment or the momentum that it creates, that part which has become numb falls on me. And I suddenly wake up jolted, that as though something else has come gripping me. Then when I realize that, oh, it is me alone, fear vanishes. There can exist no fear, there can exist no competition, there can exist no comparison. Therefore, in and through every expression, there is only joy. Just like a parent, just like a mother, when they see their own child walk for the first time, talk for the first time, achieve laurels and glory, though it is the other person doing it, how much glow and joy that you gain. A similar thing, but at a different standpoint altogether, that it is me alone in those forms, which seems to be an impossibility for us to even fathom, even imagine. Why? Because we are not vimukta, we are still binded by our own, or bound by our own several layers of definitions, limitations. Akhanda Advayam, unfragmented, one without a second, undisturbable, immense quietude within. And this is satyam jnānam anantam brahma eva aham. This comes from our Taittiriya Upanishad. Satyam jñānamanantaṃ brahma yo veda nihitam guhāyām parame vyoman. And this is something that requires no other edifice of support, of doing this, then realizing it. Satyam. We go back to the basic definitions. Go back to Atmabodha. What is Satyam? What is Sat? Trikala abadhita vastu yat tat. That which is undisturbed by past, present, future. It was, it is, it shall alone, and that is called existential reality. Jnanam. So in the book, a very beautiful one, Advaita Makaranda, it says, when we ask ourselves this question, a very beautiful contemplative method, each one has the experience that I exist. Do you exist? Nobody has to turn around and ask, do I? Then we have a problem. Because that is not delusion, it is hallucination. So that person has to be taken to a different department. Lunatic asylum. We have that complete, unshakable, that I exist. Do you know that you exist? I am very careful. Do you recognize that you exist is not what I am asking. Even without the buddhi functioning, buddhi being dull, I still experience that I know that I exist, independent of the buddhi. The only part that which we do not have the completeness of experience is Ananda. Therefore, all our efforts, however insignificantly small, is to gain that. Because the rest too, thanks to the way this creation has been created, that 2/3 is already our experience. Imagine if this was made even tougher, that I did not know I existed, I did not know I exist. How much more difficult would it have been? Practically impossible to gain self-knowledge, the experience of self. I exist, I know I exist, that is already a very clear experience of mine. And I am Ananta. That which the Antakarana is still clinging on to, even if it were sadhana that it is clinging on to, it is Antavanta. Therefore, even Samadhi is not called realization. Samadhi is only assertion of extending myself in that experience. Because Samadhi is also time bound. It starts, I revel, it stops, I stop reveling. Therefore, it is not put at the pedestal saying that it is the highest. That is the subtle difference between the yoga abhyasa, when they say the Ashtanga yoga, wherein yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Adi Shankaracharya ji very clearly in one sentence dispels that. He says that is still time bound. Anything that is which is a vyavahara, because it is time bound, cannot be called as the ultimate. But yet he gives it its due credit, saying it does a good tvampada vichara to reach to that point, and from there it has to be the jnana, which should be the realization that I am this, that which is the substratum of the entirety, that Brahman that I am. I am, I know I am, and I am not limited by anything that which is bound by time and space, therefore Ananta. And Bhagavan Krishna's very beautiful words there, he says, Antavanta ime dehaha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashino prameyasya. All that which is bound by time and space is called Antavanta. Bound by time and space meaning bound by mind. That which has a certainty of end. Whether it comes with a printed detail of MFG and EXP, manufacturing date and expiration date, whether it comes with that or not, everything perishes. There is always a DOB, there is a DOD. DOD is not Department of Defense. Date of demise. Everything has these two. It becomes Antavanta. How much subtle that they have thought that even the Samadhi Sthiti they say is Antavanta. The experience of the self is so profound that it has to culminate in that stature wherein even if I am out of the seat of meditation, walking, talking, being, I still am functioning from that status of being, that self who is now using the buddhi to interact with the world. With that spashtata they are behaving in this world. Such ones are called realized ones. The biography on Swami Chandrasekhara Saraswati is very beautifully, aptly named. Nadiche Devudu. Not Devudu because sitting on the seat of meditation, that is also limited. To come to that status wherein walking, talking, you are in that. Therefore, this nididhyasana also has to be done not just on the seat of meditation, that is just the ambassador car effect, starting trouble. You start on the seat of meditation, try to extend it even while vyavahara. That should be the abhyasa. That should be the abhyasa wherein I am not functioning from the buddhi or the antakarana sthai, but I am functioning from that conscious principle. Whenever there is a role given on the stage, knowing very well that I am playing this role, I choose to identify with that character, give an outstanding display, only to come out of that stage and immediately that role is done. People not able to differentiate, many actors have said it, that the character that they have played, it seems to shake them up from within, that they are not able to shake that identity that easily, and it seems to tend to continue even after the stage. That is the classic psychosis of the jiva. That is just a role. Where you cry, laugh, jump, it's just a role. And that's why I had given Gurudev's example that when he would come, whoever with whatever background, he would say that with background with which you are coming, that is the best, I love it. When he came to Andhra, he said, "Your avakaya, I love it." When he went to a Punjabi family, he said, "Chole, I love it." Go Gujarati, he said, "Dhokla, arre, unparalleled." When we go to Tamil Nadu, he would say, "Ha." And we think that poor fellow now is, I think he was still attached to that. Because every time I went, he said he loved it. Many of our own devotees think that. Oh, I met Swami Chinmayananji, he came to our house, he asked for Puran Poli. He loved Puran Poli. And that is because you come with that background. Not because that is his baggage. Functioning from that standpoint, you appreciate whoever coming from whatever background, jump in joy with that background, and as soon as that role is done. Many of us who have seen Gurudev have this experience wherein there used to be moments of his Rudravatara also. How many of you have experienced his Rudravatara? One thing that I very clearly, distinctly remember, right in your house here, they had messed up the time for the inauguration of the school. Whether it was morning and then he had to do it in the evening, or it was in the evening but he was told in the morning, so he came and inaugurated it. I think it was Govindaraj uncle. He was outside the house. The chicks had just brought him, piloted him in. They were all in that white clothes. I was still a newbie at that time. Everybody else, as soon as Gurudev walked out of that door, could see, could sense. I was new to that experience. The way he screamed at Govindaraj uncle. Kahar toot pada hai aaj. I couldn't move because my legs were immobile. I was in a shock. I very clearly remember as soon as that role was done, he turned around. There was a kid who could not go to chant Gita land Washington because of whatever illness or sickness that they had come. He picked up that kid, went in as though the earlier incident never ever happened. I didn't have that much of clarity at that time or that much of buddhi to understand what was happening. But it's only later when I go through that role done it required. Don't be under the wrong impression that because in that gunatita sthiti he cannot invoke the guna which is required. The ability to invoke it, express it, then drop it was instantaneous. that role done, that bhava done, there is no reminiscence of even an iota of the earlier irritation into the next experience. It was such a loving experience wherein the kid was picked up, hugged, took that kid back into the room where he was, he sat down, put that kid on his lap, gave that kid whatever the kids like. Just then he had some Guru Dakshina received, of which he took 1 lakh rupees and gave it to the parent and said, encourage the children, even Bhagavad Gita can fund your life. Completely a different mode. I mean, it was a shock for me because that is not how I have seen functioning. When somebody gets to that tarasthai of anger, that runs through the day. Not a word of mention about it again. Done to done. Then when somebody came, it's just flooding right now. They came with regards to the school. They said, why are there those 4 pillars right in the middle of the entrance? Nothing can be done. I know. It would have been a beautiful hall otherwise. He immediately shifted from that kid to become an architect. After that was done, there was something else, and then he played that role. And complete detachment instantly. That is called walking, talking, being the being. Whereas we, walking, talking, becoming. There's a huge difference. Brahmaivahamāsmi iti. So, in order to be in this state of meditation, to contemplate on this Atma Tattva, what should be done in what sequence? Very compassionately, Adi Shankaracharya ji goes into the process of it. That we will see tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Nirāmayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kasyit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.